Awesome. All right. So as I mentioned, the first place that you are going to want to start, where it's really crucial to get started, is going to be in your contacts. So the reason that I start here is because the more you have populated in here, the more is going to auto-populate into your DocuSign groups. So I am going to go down to a fictional character that I have created. Captain Marvel is a past client of mine. Also, she is a veteran. I used her in an example training the other day as well. But the real key part is going to start again with the contacts. And this is crucial for if you have multiple buyers or multiple sellers on a property. You can actually create relationships. And I feel like that's a super underutilized field within Command. So to do that, you are going to go into your edit. So when you're adding the contact, you can do this as well, but if it's an existing contact, we have added that Luke Skywalker is Captain Marvel's son. So you can create that relationship or you can remove that relationship. So to do that, it's the first thing under the name, you're going to start with add relationship and you just search for someone else in your database. So they do have to be in the Command database already. Luke Skywalker. We're gonna play this today, huh? Who's in my data?
It'll add it automatically. Push that.
Just trying to filter who's in my data, but all right. So we didn't save it. So Luke Skywalker is Captain Marvel's son. So you can sort, you can add the person on the fly, like Courtney said there. But that is one of the first crucial steps in the process. And with everything that we're going to do, the more that you put into Command, the more you're going to get out of it in DocuSign, and really the relationship with the contact as well. So that's the first key part for anybody, especially if there's going to be multiple buyers or multiple sellers. So any questions so far on that? Yeah.
Husband, wife buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
You send whatever you have the wife's contact, you create the opportunity, you send all the paperwork, and then in DocuSign you add under buyer to the husband. Is that any different than creating a relationship here?
This will put that into the DocuSign room under buyer too.
Okay.
So this will, the more you have in here, the more keystrokes it's going to save you in DocuSign. So that's the advantage of having all of that stuff in here. And then even as far as the more information you can put within here, again, that's going to help you populate. It's going to sync the fields from Command with that integration. That it's saving you keystrokes, which is what we're trying to get to add. Yes, you absolutely can add the buyer too in DocuSign rooms, and it can be much better if you have it in here first. Nancy, you got a question too?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
About using their formal name instead of nicknames.
Yes.
So that it links DocuSign with their legal name.
Yes, and that is key if you have them in it, because the integration between DocuSign and Command will continue to overwrite if they're not the same there too. So like if Captain Marvel isn't really her name, you want to put, the legal name. Good point. Thank you for that.
One other comment is when you're putting a listing in MLS, do the same thing with the seller name. Don't put Mary and Joe Smith, because if you're gonna auto-populate from MLS, which hopefully eventually we'll have DocuSign.
Hopefully we'll get DocuSign there.
Right now ZipForms does it and Dotloop does it, but we're working on getting DocuSign into that loop. It will not populate two different people. And so it's important that when you enter that in the MLS, put seller 1 and seller 2, and put their full names.
Because that will help populate it.
Yeah.
So, awesome. What else? All right. So once you have the contacts in your database, the next step is, and this is kind of what was alluded to, if you can create the opportunity first in Command, and this is right now are a couple of the steps that I see a lot of people skipping over, and it creates a little bit more work for them on the next step. So from here, I personally like to create the opportunity from a contact. You can create opportunities as well. My preference is to create it from one of the contacts. So we're going to do that. We're going to go into opportunities and then create opportunity. And you choose your market center, shouldn't have to choose there. If you're on a team, that should populate for you as well. We're going to go with this as a buyer as an opportunity type. And then I'm the owner. Captain Marvel is the client. And then any other relationships that you have created. So in this case, we had Luke Skywalker as a son. We would pull Luke Skywalker in as a co-buyer. And that is what will populate buyer 2 in DocuSign for you. So if you, and the next part of the under the opportunity, if you're just creating the buyer for a buyer agency agreement and or for that buyer console, you don't know specifically what property they're buying. As soon as you know what property they're buying, put that in the opportunity name, go change the opportunity. It's going to help save you a lot of aggravation down the road if you're searching for your opportunities, especially a couple of years down the road, if you have that information in here. We are just going to call this 123 Main Street, Captain Marvel buyer. Another cool thing, and this is, I went over this in the creating a Disney experience for your clients. Custom tags are a really cool feature within your opportunities. This is a great field to populate with, the loan officer, title, home inspector. You can then start creating a database of who's done your opportunities for that. So you can run a report after you have multiple people in there to say, okay, this home inspector has done 10 home inspections for me. This closing attorney has closed 10 files for me. Just again, it's a little hack to show you, if you're going out for sponsor money for an event, let's say you want to have a client appreciation event, and you can say, you can go to the attorney and say, hey, I sent you 10 files this year. Would you mind kicking in a little bit? So I've created a couple in here. One of them was Huff Law. I have that as a custom tag. Now, the more opportunities I have in there, that's going to, again, give me some more data points for future. That's not really a time saver here for this, but I do like to point out that. If you have your close date, you're gonna do all of that. The only other thing that is required here is going to be a commission rate. You can put whatever your commission rate is in there. And I am going to put this in the opportunity phase of appointment. That is a kept appointment.
Chris, so you recommend putting the address and the name?
I do, yeah. It's going to give you more sortable fields, like more filterable fields. So that way,
in the opportunity name?
Yeah, in the opportunity name, because then 6 months down the road, as you got, hopefully 30, 40 opportunities in there, when you look at all opportunities, it'll be a little bit easier for you to find that and just visually see it.
Gotcha.
And that'll help from a compliance standpoint too, when they're trying to find the opportunity for a check that comes in. Yeah.
If a contract falls through,
Mhm.
go back and put the client name in until we have a new contract.
Yeah, you could definitely, I would do that, or it depends where you're at. You might be creating a new opportunity, it's probably gonna, I would probably still reuse the opportunity, so I would. Unless you want the documents you're gonna have the documents in DocuSign anyway. But what other questions, comments on creating the opportunity? Because where that becomes crucial is gonna be the next step, which I feel is gonna be, hopefully people ringing the gong there, but it's gonna be my pro tip #1. Any questions on that so far? So creating the opportunity in Command is crucial, because it's going to save you a ton of time right here. So now I am going into the opportunity itself. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Documents. And this is where, again, this is the first place that I see a lot of people adding a lot of time to their transaction, is by not doing this step. So with one of the integration, I want to say 3 to 4 months ago, we now have added the ability for documents to pre-populate into the room when you create the room from DocuSign. So to do that, the first step you have to do is under Pick Checklist Type, you're going to choose Residential. And then what you're going to see when you do that is all of these placeholders show up in your folders, and everything that has little DS next to it is going to auto-populate. It's gonna pull those forms into your room. So for this side, on a buyer, it's gonna pull in real estate agents, buyer agency agreement, offer to purchase, and then professional service, heritage title, and heritage title selection form. So once you do that, the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and hit start a transaction. That is going to either ask you to log into your rooms, your DocuSign account, or if you're already signed in as I was, go ahead. That's it. There, okay. Okay. So when I did that, what it did is it automatically pulled in all of the forms that I would need to get this transaction started. So rather than traditionally what we used to have to do before is we had to go up here to add documents and add them kind of one at a time to the transaction. Now we have the ability to automatically pull them in there. So I think that's a huge step on the integration front as far as what has, like the forms will automatically come into you. Another great feature of, it was a little bit of a stumbling point for us. Several of you, well, hopefully all of you by now have gone in and had to re-put your NERDS ID into your DocuSign account. What that integration and that partnership with the association as well as DocuSign did, it makes it so that the forms will always be updated for us in here. Because previously to this, we had to go and get a whole new set of forms every year, and then we had to wait for those to get updated, and it took a little time. So that will streamline that process. But the most important part for you guys is it automatically puts these forms in. What questions, comments, concerns you guys have on that? And I know a lot of you are pros in here already, so if you have other talking points, please let me know.
What was the statement that you just made, that our nurse ID should be where?
It should be in your DocuSign account. If you're ever going into try to add a form to this and it says you have no forms access, the reason is most likely under your name, there is this preferences, and on the left-hand side is integrations. And in here, you should have National Association of Realtors. If you don't, that's the main reason that you don't have that. All you need to do is one time verify your NERDS ID, pull in your state, and it will validate those forms.
So that's a change, right?
Yes, that was about actually we were at Mega Camp. And my phone started blowing up. I think Stephanie might have been the first person to recognize that.
I sent somebody to you this.
Yes,
weekend.
yes.
And I was having the same issue, I'm like, I don't know, so he never called me back to tell me why.
Yeah, I did talk to him, it was all good. So that's what's going to allow that integration moving forward. So that's a one-time thing that should take care of it. So a bunch of other hands come up.
Is there any way to get, once you have the forms and everything signed and DocuSign, to get it to automatically sync back to Command?
Automatically sync back? No,
Well,
but
even when I hit the sync button in Command, it doesn't pull them in.
it's not gonna hold, you have to map, you have to tell we will go over that as well. So yes, it won't automatically like say, hey, this is working with real estate agents. It will,
If you label it right, will it?
no, it won't automatically do it. Yeah, well, you don't have to download it and upload it, which is
Right.
what you used to have to do. And I see,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can do that already. I
Okay.
didn't know if there was an easier way.
here's,
So is this similar to DocuSign where you're creating a template? Like you would create a buyer template for the forms you want included?
Mhm.
You're saying this is going to automatically pull the forms that a buyer needs?
yes, this is going to populate with the standard forms. We will go over how you can add your customizations to that with some advanced stuff. And then what you'll do with that is you'll say, okay, this is the offer to purchase form. I want to use my template in that placeholder.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it includes the heritage title, right, Chris?
Yes, it does. Yep. I think they're split right now, but they're,
Which is great because you can fill it out now rather
Yeah.
than adding text fields. and
yes,
filling it out.
yes. I wish they would populate some of the stuff I told them to, but because that's our own custom form, that's not a state form. So there's a process to go through that. What other questions on auto-populating the room, the forms to the room?
Can you repeat where you put your nurse number in?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me disconnect mine and then I'll reconnect. So under preferences on the top right, in the left-hand side is integrations. And if I'm going to remove this validation real quick. So yours, if you hadn't validated, it'll show up and it'll just say company forms there. You're going to hit add provider. And then you're going to choose the realtor. And then you're going to enter your NERDS ID up here. Your last name, and then you choose your association. And unbeknownst to me, it is not alphabetical. North Carolina is they made me a liar. They did finally alphabetize it. All right, so it is alphabetized. So it's North Carolina Association of Realtors. When they first came out, it was
Second from the bottom.
It was second from the bottom, yeah. And then it became fourth from the bottom. And now it looks like they've alphabetized it. So you'll choose your association, you'll go ahead and validate it, and that will give you your forms access.
So you go to my preferences.
Yep,
And then.
and then integrations on the left-hand side.
I'll see you after class.
Okay. In your rooms, not in your DocuSign account. Yeah. Any other questions? No one's banging the gong yet? No one's learned anything yet? I failed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Whenever they get uploaded, like our team, our transactions coordinator has templates, so that it's exclusive buyer agencies like the exact same every time. Is that what you were mentioning? That's next?
That's what we will get to that, yeah, absolutely. I want to go over this stuff to make sure that, because again, that's where that combined with what we're going to do on creating an envelope are the 2 points that I see people wanting, again, I've had lots of calls where people are like, I'm about to throw my computer out the window. We don't want to get them there. There's a lot of integrations that should help minimize throwing computers out window. What else? Minimize. I didn't say to get rid of them. You're still one of 17 offers. You're still going to throw your computer out. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go and create the documents. I'm not going to spend a ton of time. You guys know how to hopefully know how to put addresses into the proper places. If you don't, watch Jody's video on forms and form settings. That I'm just going to show you for purposes of the class. So let's say the offer to purchase as an example. You go populate all of the stuff that you need to do. I'm just gonna put some things in here. Something. So once you have all your forms ready, again, let's pretend as a group that we've had all our forms all populated. Another thing I do want to add in here, when they did that integration with the forms, you may have seen some forms that show up and say sample on them. And then even if you try to download them, it still says sample. That is, I believe, the main reason they did that is so that our forms didn't get out to people who weren't realtors, because it made sure that you're validating that you are a realtor and it doesn't get blank forms out there. So the pro tip to work around that is just go put a character anywhere on the form and it'll make it no longer be a sample. That happens more in South Carolina because there are some forms that don't even have a place for a signature on them. But that's a little bit of a tip there. So once you have all your forms all ready, again, if you don't know how to do that, attend Jody's class for that or watch the videos on that. You're going to go to your envelopes. This is where I see the absolute most pain points in the transaction process. And so we're going to choose room docs. I'm going to go ahead and add all of the room docs to it. I'm just going to add the offer to purchase as an example. So I'm going to add the forms that I want to send off in this envelope. And then I'm going to add recipients to the envelope. This is the point, star, asterisk, double star, highlight, whatever you need to do to make sure that you are doing this. Choose pre-tag roles, pre-tag roles, pre-tag roles. This is what's going to save you a ton of time. Because what choosing pre-tag roles will do, will put all of the check marks, all of the signature boxes, all of the signature boxes, the initial boxes, all in the right place. If you choose room participants or email address, it's going to make you go add your check boxes and your signature boxes and your initial boxes. So pre-tag roles, again, that's not going to work for like if you're uploading as a buyer, if you're uploading the property disclosures or the mineral oil and gas, because you've got to manually add those check boxes. But for a pre-populated form, that will work. So I'm just going to choose that Captain Marvel is buyer 1 on here, add selected. You're going to choose, this is my personal preference. I never send please DocuSign. I put what's going over to the client so they know whether it's updated contract, 123 Main Street documents to sign, whatever it is, and I put a message in there. I see a lot of agents that do they just leave the please DocuSign, but you're not really, it's not going to help you kind of track down those folders for you later. And then one little advanced tip here, because this happens maybe a little bit with the crowd that is a little older, we'll say. They may only have one email address.
Hey.
You have at least two. You have at least 2 email addresses, Joe. You have a Kate, everyone another. But a lot of people only have one email address for the both of them. They might have just a family email address. If you have a scenario where that happens, the workaround for that in DocuSign is all you need to do is change the signing order for that. So if, let's say, I'm going to choose another person, buyer 2 is going to be. If you only had one email address for them, the workaround for that, and this is again is an advanced workaround, is change the signing order. So let's say Captain Marvel only had Captain Marvel, but Mr. Marvel was he didn't have his own email address and you need to use captainmarvel@hotmail.com. You would just change the signing order to a 2 on that. And then what that will do is that'll send the documents to Captain Marvel to sign. Once Captain Marvel completes the signing of that, it'll come back and then he'll send it out to Mr. Marvel, who will then sign it with that same email address, but it'll say Mr. Marvel. So that's just a workaround for that. That will, if you only have that one email address. It's a lot easier than going out and asking someone to go create their own secondary email address.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So when you do that, I've had it where sometimes then the person's name, one of the buyer's name isn't in there. Is that because they're not in the contacts or opportunity?
Possibly, I'd have to see that to know for sure. Or they weren't added as buyer 2. That's probably why.
That's probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's an important one to do that up front.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's why, again, just like most of Command, I know it maybe I say it a little bit too much, but the database is the more you have in there, the more it's going to help you populate all of this. What other questions on that? Again, that's where I've talked to people and they're like, I spent 4 hours putting the signature boxes and the initial boxes on a document. So once you have all of that, you're going to go to next. And again, this is where you will see it puts every initial box where it needs to go. You don't have to drag them all into there. Questions, thoughts, concerns?
I love it.
What's that?
I love it. It's so much easier.
It's so much easier, yeah. Like, especially on, 15-page documents with signatures on initials on the bottom of every page.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah,
I do have a comment about where it puts those initial and signature boxes. For me, it
Okay.
usually shows up, once they sign, it's a little bit below the line. So I go in
Okay.
and I have to move them up, especially the signature lines. I move them up just a little bit. But then on the date and time, it's way too long for the spot it gives it. So I have to pull it back closer to the name, or otherwise your time is not on the document.
There are a couple things you can do to change that date format in there too. That would minimize that a little bit, but I do hear what you're saying. And I know from a legal perspective, you're getting it on the line and where it needs, at least I think from a legal perspective, having them there. I mean, I personally wouldn't spend a ton of time on that. But I do hear what you're saying. And then here they're on the line. And I know what you're saying from the signature.
Yeah, I don't worry about the initials usually, but the full
Yeah.
signature, sometimes it's too far down. It looks like there's a line through their signature.
Yeah, oh, so like on the.
Yeah.
Page 12 or 13, wherever it is now. There,
Yeah.
yeah. And you can definitely. I personally have never changed any of that, but I do know what you're saying. You can also change the formatting of that. And then it's in your settings to change the date format to for the timestamp.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, you can make the signature smaller, but you can also change the timestamp. It's an advanced setting. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's under. It's under preferences, I believe, and I don't know where it is, but I know there's a place to change that. I'm sorry, I can get you that information.
I can look for it. I'll play, but thank you for even knowing I could do that.
Yeah, you can change how the timestamp shows up there.
I've been curious before why they don't do it like dot loop, where the dot loop is typed and sitting right beside it.
Right.
It's like on top of.
Yeah.
Maybe one, maybe it's the other.
Yeah, I don't know the.
I wondered the same thing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And again, especially with, I mean, initials, I've seen contracts with like initials all over the place, and it's got this timestamp all over it too. Makes it even worse. What else?
We'll probably always still have to add it onto the MOG and our RPD, right?
Yeah, you'll definitely be you'll add this in the initial boxes to that for sure.
So one thing that is hard to manage is when you have an entity buyer or seller, because you have to manually move it to where they're supposed to sign.
Right.
And it doesn't move their name. It's so under the individual signatures, it will still have their names left up there, but you want them to sign as an entity buyer.
You need to move those initial boxes, those signature boxes. Yeah, absolutely. No, that actually, thank you for bringing that up today, because that does bring me to another point. I know you cover this in your classes, and it comes down to the exclusive buyer agency. The exclusive buyer agency, where the dual agency needs to be checked off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or unchecked, I should say. So this is a part.
Yes, you have to delete a box.
Yeah, you have to make sure you go in and delete the, because it automatically populates.
Required.
Put 6 boxes down there.
Yeah, they put a whole bunch of boxes.
And you have to take all 4 of them if you have a buyer and 2 buyers.
So I know that April will send it back a lot of times.
If they're all
It has
signed.
all three,
Yeah.
Because the buyer doesn't know, right?
They just hit the
Just
button.
clicking where it's telling them to, which isn't that good either. That's another topic, but. So she will kick it back, and I know you hate rework. I hate it. I know you do.
So to stop getting that kickback to you, this is what you need to do for that. So what we're talking about specifically in here is right here, right? Yeah, so you just want to go in, and if they desire, if they want, well, you have to take which one they're not doing out of there. Or you have to take 2 of them out, ideally, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
1 or 2.
Yeah, so if they're not, if they don't want exclusive, you will just highlight this and then delete that. And the same thing with the designate.
So I get that question a lot. We do practice designated agency. For those of you who may have a seller that said, or a buyer that says, yeah, I'm okay with you being a dual agent. I just don't want you to be the same agent if it's your listing and your sale.
So the firm,
So the firm can be the dual agent. So that's when you would select designated.
any questions on where to go and do that? Sounds like most of you guys knew where that was, so that's good. So the ones who get that kicked out aren't in the training.
So the other one is on the listing agreement, where now you have to, the buyer, I'm sorry, the seller has to initial, whether it's public marketing or
Office exclusive.
office exclusive, yeah.
Chris, can you double check to let Aaron in the Zoom?
I don't have anybody waiting room.
That she got kicked off.
Trying to get that in.
Yeah. There's no one in the waiting room right now. Do this here. Just to show you guys what we're talking about for that. You know whereabouts that is?
It's around page 4 or 5, I think.
There.
That's, so that.
That's the
box is
public
where
mark.
They do, right there, commencement marketing, and then they have a public marketing where they initial. So you'll need to enter a date under the commencement of marketing when you're filling out the form. They will initial that it's gonna be public marketing or
Office.
office exclusive, so you'll have to remove one of those. If it's gonna be office exclusive, you remove the public marketing. If it's gonna be public marketing, you remove the office exclusive.
So you can see that those show up at white on here, so they're meant to be optional, but a lot of agents just send them all off and decide.
You can just drag them left too and they go away.
Do they just go away? All right, Aaron is on the way, he's writing them down. So, all right. So we're going to, this is something I highly recommend. This is not required for you, but once you have it, I train this way because I feel it does make, as I think, especially right now, you know, where you may have a buyer that you're have to submit multiple offers for, or you've had different versions of signed documents along the road. I highly recommend that in your documents that you create a folder of all of the signed documents. Because as you're in a room here, you could start seeing 20, 30 documents that are all compiled up here. So it's going to make it easier for the next step. Will be an advanced tip here is to create a folder and call it like signed documents or something along those lines. To do that, on the right-hand side, you're going to hit add, and then it's our actions, and you're going to add folder. And like I said, I'm just going to call this signed docs. Go ahead and create. And then if you want to, you're going to go through and check the ones that are signed documents. And then you're just going to hit this little arrow here where it says move. And then you're going to select a destination. In this case, you're going to be folder in current room. And then we're going to move it to signed docs. And it just takes all of those folders, all of those documents out of the room documents folder and puts all of the all of the signed documents together. What that's going to do, again, it's going to make it so, because what will happen is you could have 3 different kinds of documents down here. You could have form, you could have PDF, you could have, well, docx could technically be there, and then you'll have the one that's green check mark that says sign. So you could just go through and put all of your signed documents in that signed doc folder. And then for the next step, that's going to save you some visual headings. Any questions on that? Who's been using that as a little tip? You use that, Taylor? Awesome.
Wish I had.
So Taylor, you're teaching next time.
If we move documents then between folders, we have that signed document folder, maybe we have revisions.
Yeah, you can take it out, put it back in the old, like an old docs folder and stuff like that. It just helps you organize the same way as folders would on the computer. Yes, sir.
And while we're on the topic, let's say for instance, we send an envelope out and we have to make a revision on the offer to purchase. We have to avoid that whole envelope still, right? Or is there a way that you can go in there and correct it other than just correcting the signatures that I see that they're doing?
The best practice would be to avoid that envelope and to redo it.
I just
I
had
think,
that happen.
yeah.
But what I did was I had 3 in here, 2 were signed and ready to go, and was 1 that needed to be revised. So what I did was the agent
Download it,
signed
download
it. No, she signed it. When she signed it, it went through, and we downloaded those 2, and then it let me alter.
Correct, and then you still have to get, like, you still have the initials, though, right?
Yes, but just on the 1, because I didn't want to send all 3 back. You see what I mean?
Any questions on that so far, or on the signed documents folder, or anything else we've covered so far? Other questions that have come into your mind? Yeah.
I think for best practices, when you have multiple documents to sign, do you send everything in one envelope or do you send separate envelopes?
Yeah, you're just asking the group, you're asking the group for best practices,
Best
right?
practice on that, yes, because I heard, basically, if you sent multiple documents and one wound up having a problem, then you had to manipulate the envelope. Where I'm kind of in favor of sending each document separately, so that there's a problem with one document, that's the one you address and all the rest are sitting fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, personally, I preferred to send them all together. But that's just so I don't have clients having to get 7 emails from me if they're gonna sign
It
it.
seems like the
Now we don't
time.
have to buy everything.
Separate on.
So I have a tall base like that.
Mhm.
When there's some people that need help, like this other tall one that matches it, finding this stuff, they savvy on the computer, so I was trying to send one, they go through it, instead of like constantly.
And that looks super nice.
Which one? Uh-huh. And it should go on the other side?
The other tall one.
These are- There they are. All right, so now you've got all your forms signed and in your signed documents folder. That is going to make it easier for you once you're then back in Command, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna refresh this.
Hey, everything okay?
And this is there's a couple new features that.
Ever
you guys
since I
can
quit,
out. One of
it's
them
been
now, and
amazing.
actually another one isn't out yet, but will be out very soon.
Like, we're in the kitchen and I would look. I would ask her, she probably knows. Okay. Okay. All right.
All right, so now that you're back in Command.
I'm sorry, my husband called me and he's like,
Now
I'm
you
at work, or how, I thought you said half the thing at work, and I'm like, oh, it's great ever since I quit.
I got it, no, it's there. I got it, I finally got it. I got it, I
Chris is
knew
trying to be so nice, I'm like, okay.
it. So when you are now back in Command, you have the placeholders within the Documents tab, and a recent update here, which is how the working folder, that signed documents folder is become very useful, is they've now added in here. Now you can choose to attach files right from Docusign. And they've now added a working folder, which has, you can then tell it which folder your documents are in. So now, rather than having to choose from, again, that checklist of 20 documents that may be in there, you just have your signed docs. And then what that does, as you saw on the right-hand side, you may have noticed, it made this, what was a grayed out box is now highlighted. And now I can say, well, there's nothing signed in there. There's just forms in there, but that would choose the actual forms that were there. Let me go back. form. There. Refresh this. So now again, I'm telling it to work in the signed docs folder. Now I have that file that I just put in there. So it makes a nice, easy to read drop down list for you, especially if you get really good at naming your files in Docusign. So again, that maps it to it. So again, I've seen a lot of agents, again, this is another throw your computer out the window moment. They go in and they download the document to their computer from Docusign.loop, zip forms, wherever it may be, and then have to then upload it manually themselves, just taking a lot of extra steps into the process. And then you can go ahead and submit your documents for compliance purposes, once you have them all in there. So everything that's in there, and again, this is a room full of people that have a pretty good grasp. Everything that's in here that says required does have to be in that folder, or it's supposed to be in that folder for compliance purposes. The next thing, and I don't have a working visual on this, it was supposed to come out today. I haven't seen it drop as of yet. They are adding a PDF splitter into Command. So if you get that combined, a lot of agents will put in MLS, in the MLS, and they'll put MOG, LED, and RPDs all together in one document. There'll be a document splitter in Command that will say, okay, page 1 is MOG, put that there in that folder. So that's coming. It was supposed to release today. As soon as that comes out, I'll definitely put together a quick little video to give you highlights of that. But that'll be good, especially, another one I see that on is you might have, they put the covenants and they put the rules and regs, and they put everything in one document online for you. That'll help you break those out. And the cool part is with that, even when they do that, there will be a new custom folder that automatically gets created down here that will have the original file. So even though you're splitting one file maybe into 4 or 5, the original file will still be in Command.
Chris, under the working folder drop-down menu, are those only folders that you have created?
Yeah.
I saw you create the signed docs. The room docs, that's not a customary folder that.
That's where everything default goes to. So see how it has room docs?
So that one's already named and already in place.
Correct. Yeah, you're not creating that.
Okay.
Yep, you're just creating a place. Like I said, that's a pro tip to go and create your own document. Because then again, it makes it so I've only got 10 files to go through instead of 35 to filter through. Any other comments, concerns? Jody, do you see any pain points there from a compliance or fix standpoint?
Just know that some of them are conditionally required, and that's because there's always exceptions, right? So the most common, I think, is with the MOG and the residential property disclosure. If you're selling an estate sale or your client is buying an estate sale, they are exempt from those two addendums. So you will not have them. There are multiple reasons for an exemption. They're in the rule. And it's a state statute. An REO or a foreclosure is also one of those properties that does not require those documents.
That's just because they can't sign.
Well, they don't know. They never lived in it, they inherited it, or if it's a family transaction, so if a mom is selling to a son or a daughter or whatever, they're not required to provide those disclosures there. So, but if it's an older than 1978, they do require an LDP, yeah. Sorry, yeah, slang. I don't know what LDP is.
I know we're not supposed to not use those acronyms when teaching, right?
I know,
It's
right?
tough. It is tough.
Or that's something you can teach while you're teaching.
Chris, another question I've gotten from cash buyers
Yep.
is, are they required to sign the heritage title agreement?
Yes,
Because some of those folks don't want title insurance.
that's okay. All they're signing,
saying-
the only thing they're signing is a disclosure that says Keller Williams has interest in Heritage Title. That's all, they don't have to sign both, they only have to sign the one.
And then the part that they check is where just as where they pick their lawyer. It has a 3 boxes
You
on
can
the
have
second,
that, that's
Right.
right.
and it's just where.
Yes, they don't have to have the choice when they have to have the.
I'm curious.
They don't have
if
to
I need
use
talk to
Heritage
somebody-
Title, but they do need to know that Keller Williams has an interest
Yeah.
in Heritage Title, whether they get title insurance or not. Because an attorney's gonna recommend it, and you need to have that on your professional services disclosure, that they waive that. Because if they go down the road 3 years and all of a sudden they learn that their fences or the neighbor's fence is on their property or whatever the case might be, whether they paid cash or got a loan, it doesn't matter. There is no title insurance, so they're gonna come after you and say, why didn't you tell me to get a survey, or why didn't you tell me to get title insurance? Because the survey, if they get a survey, then they're covered in their title insurance with matters of survey. A lot of people don't know that either. So there's a good reason to get a survey when you're purchasing property, because your title insurance will then protect you from survey issues, matters of survey, so.
So I know that we tell them that, our company has interest in it, but how is the best way to describe that form to the title insurance form?
So I know we're off topic,
That's all right.
Chris. So the best thing to say is the state mandates the amount that a title insurance company can charge. And so you would pay the same amount whether you use Heritage Title or not. If you agree to use Heritage Title, they will look for a reissue rate. And if they can't provide that, then they will recommend another title insurance. So they won't pay any more.
All right. All right, so now what I have left was just some advanced stuff that I wanted to, well, any questions, what questions you guys have so far, and anything we cover? Because I'm over kind of the main part now, or just some advanced that, especially for, I don't know, actually Lydia, who just left, who was asking on this, but we're gonna talk about the templates and how you can add those to your, even if you pre-populate them. So, yeah.
Stop you if you're gonna cover this.
Okay.
But, so once you send from a room, once you send your document
Mhm.
here, do they return? Sign right there?
They do not return, you're going to pull in only here, you have to map them that way.
No, I mean like in your room, your Docusign room.
In your room, they're not gonna show up in the signed docs folder, is that what you mean?
No, but they'll just come back to that spot. when it's
Yes, yeah,
done. Well, I know, but, okay.
Because you might be in someone else's account.
Yeah, Jason
As an
He gets an
assistant.
yeah, he gets
Right,
it,
he gets the email.
But
you don't.
right now they're all on the place, like they're in that other room.
Yeah, yeah.
The Docusign.
It would be
Right.
nice if they showed up in that same folder where, but I guess you don't move them into that. folder
Yeah, you
until they're
move-
signed.
right, and then you know your lawyer signed doc, but yeah, so yeah, there's a notification that goes out that says, hey, John Smith has finished signing the envelope, or
Yeah.
all people have signed, and it automatically goes in there, yes. Yep. All right, so the next part.
And the color changes too.
It
has
says a
little
green check mark.
Check mark on it.
Yep. All right, so the next thing I wanted to go over was, and this was a big ask for us in there, and this is the ability to create templates. So a lot of people have some standard language that they like to put in the contracts, and when you pre-populate the room in the manner that we did through Command, it just brings in the stock blank forms for you. So back in DocuSign, I am going to go into here, and to create your own forms, but you're going to create your own templates, you're going to go under My Docs, and then Form Templates. And then from there, you're going to create a form template. And then choose which form you want. And then from here, you're just going to go in and create the stuff that you want templated on. And I'll show you some examples that I've created. But let's just say you want your information to fill in. I mean, it will populate, this isn't a great example of it, but if you wanted to populate information, you just put exactly what you want to show on that template all the time for that agent. So the only downside to this is for larger teams, you would have to go create templates for each one of your agents. Again, once you do them, they're done for you, but you have to create, set a different set of templates because you're in that person's individual DocuSign account, not a team DocuSign account. So you'll do that.
Off topic, but do people put the office address there at the bottom?
No,
I
that
always
was
thought that was a weird.
that was a silly workaround that I don't know who came up with that, but yeah, because they're not signing for a specific property. They're signing.
Oh, that's supposed to be the property that they're buying?
Well, I think that's what goes in there.
I had put the.
I haven't used that
office
form.
there.
I haven't done transactions with that version of
Yeah.
that form came out. I just remember seeing it in there. So now
What
I've
is
created
that? I'm sorry. I'm
That-
on the working with real estate agents disclosure,
Just the news, it's already.
the new form that they put in our library,
Uh-huh.
they added an address box at the bottom down here. It doesn't say what that's what it is, but it's clearly formatted as such.
This DocuSign is the only,
Oh, yeah, no, I know that, I don't,
I would say leave it blank.
yeah, I would leave that alone. So once you have all your templates, so as you can see, I created one in here and I did a lot more to it. Basically I took the listing agreement and said, hey, if it's a 6% listing that I know I'm getting, I want all of this stuff to populate it. If it's a 5%, it's the same exact form. I just put the 5% in there instead of 6%. I don't know if that's gonna map for me. It's not the same form, but we'll try it. But the process will be the same. That was the whole form. So we've got 123 Main Street again. This is the folder we just created. Once you have your templates, you'll go under Documents. And so we have the exclusive right to sell as an example there. If you right click on the form itself and then hit Apply Form Template, that will pull in your templates that you've created. So I'm just going to show you what this does. So as you can see, on the template itself or on the form itself, and again, I don't know if this is going to work because it's 2020 form that I have a template for. But whatever you had populated into the template, let's say as an example, on your listing agreement, you always have, you check off every single one of these except for coming soon. You sign open houses, internet advertising, and you just want to save steps in having to do that and all of the lockbox stuff and all that stuff that you want to pre-populate again, save you some keystrokes. That's what you can use those templates for. So none of that is populated in that because that's the standard form. Nothing's been changed. If I go again, right click, apply form template, and let's say it's a 6%, and I go hit apply. If it worked right, it will populate the stuff that I have populated on that form. So as you can see, it didn't have that there. All of that stuff is in my template. I've got the home warranty, $650. 6% went in there. I put the 60 days, that's on the template. Got the 3%. So everything that I put into that template is now in that form for that specific folder. I know I went kind of quick on that, but what question? How many people are using templates right now? How many people would like to use templates? Okay, so did I go over that too quickly?
No.
Do you want me to slow that down and show you on a different form maybe? But what it will do is it will say, if you know you have like those 10 boxes as an example, are going to be the same on every listing agreement you're going to create. Rather than having to go check all those boxes off every time, you can have it pre-populate using that template.
I have a question, Chris.
Yeah.
Can I create that for one of my team members in their DocuSign and just nothing like personal to them, but just like what you're talking? Then can I share that to my other team members so they can upload it, or do they have to each create their own within their DocuSign?
That's a great question. My gut tells me they have to create a form template for themselves. And I can check that. I'm not sure on that. I can get back to you on that, Jenny. But not 100% sure on that. My gut tells me you have to create the templates per agent, unless you share the template, which I don't know that you can do. Not sure. I'll get that. I can check on that.
Do you put branding on it?
I don't know. I don't know where you would be able to put in.
Some offices do that.
Yeah. I don't know that you can add.
I've even seen some old, I think we used to have forms in dot loop that had like color logos.
They did, yeah. I don't think you can add a. Image.
Chris, do you bring the template in first? Or can you bring it in anytime?
You can bring it in at any time. Yeah, these are just boxes. I don't think you can add images. Yeah, no, I don't think you can add a custom branding to that. So Don, yeah, you can add that. So once the form is in the room, so like the 2T as an example, once that form is in there, you can apply your template to that at any point in time. What other questions you guys have on that? That was a big ad that people like, that was one of the things, like, in my opinion, the only two things we're missing now with it being far superior to what .loop can do is the fact that MLS pull that Jody mentioned, that you can just literally pull the info from MLS and it populates the room, or it populates the loop, and then mobile signature, like the mobile app for DocuSign just isn't there. As far as like creating documents and stuff, I would question whether or not you should be creating rooms and stuff mobilely, but I know that's a feature that .loop has that people like, and then the team feature, I suppose. But once you have the templates set up, they're pretty easy to plug and play.
Will your handout have some steps on
Yes.
how to do that?
Yep. What else do you guys have? That's pretty much everything that I had, unless anybody has any specific questions. Or anyone wants to stay around for specific questions that we didn't cover, or a challenge that they think may be specific to them. I did, I think. I hit record. It'll probably take me a little while to put it together.
Okay,
Yeah.
will that be found on Rock and Red?
It'll be, I'll post it to Rock and Red, and then it'll also be on our YouTube channel too. Yeah. All right, well, I thank you guys for coming. I do have these handouts for you, and I will drop the handout in the chat as well. So this is just a step-by-step for everything that Scott Leroy Marketing has put in there. It even includes like zip form integration. In my opinion, again, with all these things, these features here, there's not much need for the zip form integration. If you still want to use .loop, again, there still are a couple things there, but for the most part, I sincerely feel this integration is, personally, I just like .loop. DocuSign better from a usability standpoint.
And .loop doesn't let you send two different people under the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that in DocuSign.
Yeah, that's not an ideal thing, but it's a workaround.
Well, for you're older than me. Clients,
Yeah, I did a lot.
a lot of people have an email address.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want
Get that a lot.
to. And they say, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I go.
All right, so we're gonna drop that document
Down
here.
here, download it.
Change the name.
When they share.
What is the name of that one?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, stop the share, I'm gonna drop that like I said.
Yeah.